All right, SHTF garden coming back at you. All right, this one, just want to have a quick food for thought, so to speak, conversation. Now is the time whenever it comes to planning your garden, what you're going to have for calories for the winter. So we've all seen the footage where Biden is saying there's going to be a food shortage. We knew this was coming. That's the whole reason I started my channel, right? So, although now the war in Ukraine is obviously making it much worse, but that's beside the fact for this video. I want to talk about ways that you can preserve your food that you're growing now. I have like what I consider my 3-month rule for your garden. So whenever you start growing, it's going to be 3 months before you go into full production, right? So some things obviously grow faster. You can get summer squash faster than that. You can get bush beans faster than that. You can get radishes, being the rabbit of the group, and you get those as 30 days, 28 days, I think, on some varieties. So, but the rule of thumb is if you're getting something, production is generally going to be 3 months. So you have to have enough calories to last you from the time your garden season ends, when it starts getting too cold, all the way until not just when spring starts, but for 3 more months past that. Where I'm at here in the Midwest, you have about a 6-month growing season, about a 6-month between frost dates there. So you use about half and half. You have 6 months of too cold and 6 months of warm. That being said, if I had to try and get a large portion of my calories from my garden, I would have to be planning ahead on not just the 6 months I'd be eating during winter, but the next 3 months I could start getting potatoes and corn and whatever else I'll be trying to get. So I want to show you what some of the things look like that I grew over this last year and some other years, and what they look like now that some months have gone by. So getting started right from the very beginning, things that did not require refrigeration. I want to show these right here. Let me get this. Now these are potatoes. If y'all watch my potato harvesting video, y'all see me harvest these red potatoes. Red New Orleans or something, I think it was. I have to go back and watch the video. So I'm probably going to plant these and see how they do. Obviously, this wouldn't be something you'd want to eat. But this is what a potato looks like after that many months sitting in a box in a dark area. It's trying to grow. This is another example here, although it's not the same kind of potato. I forgot what kind of potato this is. But anyways, I've got a few of these. This is what they look like. Now, they are not rotten, and they would be probably do just fine if I plant them, and I'm going to confirm that by planting some of these and seeing what I get. I'm sure they'll grow. And so that's fine. So, but that's not edible that many months later. So potatoes are great, especially if you can grow them later into the year. Now this was not a fall crop of potatoes. This is what I harvested midsummer, and they're still not rotten. So they are holding up well. Comparison to store-bought potatoes, you buy them, they're eyed up because they're already old. I'd say the Cadillac of that stuff is these sweet potatoes. Probably my most popular gardening video was my sweet potato harvest, and this is one of the potatoes that I harvested in that video. Now it's been since like October. These have been sitting in that same basket. Still has some dirt on it for whenever I harvested those in that video. And they're not sprouting, they're not eyeing, they're not rotten. Perfectly good. This is the Cadillac. See, this is not something I eat during the gardening season. I will plant these after the frost date is over, and these will grow all the way until next frost. Pretty much I'll harvest them before the frost, and then I'll have these that I can snack on throughout the winter and for months to come. These are not even close to going bad. These things will last dang near a year, just sitting there. I had some in a plastic bag, as long as they were, had no moisture on them, hanging up on a door. A couple of years ago, and they lasted like almost a year before they started sprouting. So these, if you're talking about planning ahead and you have the time to grow them and you like sweet potatoes, this would be something that would be great to grow during the summer for calories during the winter. Because remember, what they're talking about, the food shortage is not going to be immediate. We still have grains and stuff from last year, although a lot of those grains in the Ukraine, Black Sea, Russia area are not on market. But we're talking about they're not planting right now. And there's fertilizer shortages. So it's the next harvest that's really going to begin to be impacted. So save your rice and beans and all that kind of stuff. Get your canned goods now. But if you're talking about growing some stuff, This is something to grow that will keep very well all winter long so that you still have food to eat. This is not a summertime vegetable in my opinion, because I don't eat these during the summer because they're still growing. They take a very long time to grow. It's one of the downsides to them. But if you're looking to have something at the end of the garden season saying, oh, I can't grow anymore because it's winter, you got these, right? Big. This is a big one. Getting onto winter squash. Obviously, that's another one. I want to bring up the point that not all winter squash is created equal. One of my personal favorite winter squashes is spaghetti squash. I don't have an example here. They don't keep as long as now, like as many months as it's been since I harvested. I do have the Geet Oaksum, whatever, however you pronounce it. You may have seen me growing in one of the other videos. This one is all kind of withery and soft. I don't know how well it shows on camera, but I can squeeze it real easy. This is something I'm just going to harvest seeds out of and grow some more of. So all winter squash is good and keeps for a long time sitting on the counter, but they're not all created equal. So if you were going to grow some winter squash and you wanted it to keep for as long as possible, this is not necessarily a bad variety to grow because it kept for months, but not as many months as it's been since I harvested, and you may have seen in some of my previous videos. So not all winter squash is created equal. So you would have to eat these, and my beloved spaghetti squash falls in the same range as this one before now would be. So if you did want maximum and you are saying, well, I need that 3 months plus that my 6 months of winter or whatever, what could I be growing? This is a butternut squash I harvested out of the backyard. Still hard as a rock on the outside, still firm. I can't squeeze it. Still delicious. I ate one of these a while back. And still great. I mean, you can look at this thing. It's beautiful. Even this little ding in there healed up. Perfect. Now, so not all of them are created equal. I like buttercup squash, but butternut squash is, and out of the ones I've grown various varieties of winter squash throughout the years. As far as the best keeping winter squash, it's got to be butternut squash, in my opinion. You know, out of all the ones I've tried. I was surprised by this, though. I also still have a pumpkin left. Usually these pumpkins don't last nearly this long. They get set outside for a decoration or something. And they end up, much to my disappointments, way too many of them end up being decorations. I think if I remember right, this is a sugar pie pumpkin, if I remember right. I'm not 100% sure on that, which variety it was. And it may be some hybridized variety from having various ones in my garden. So, but this one being inside and out of the weather, instead of being put on a hay bale for decorations like so many of the other ones, it's actually still pretty good. So, I was surprised by that. That's the longest lasting pumpkin I've ever had. But it does go to show that some pumpkins can last a long time. In fact, these are all in the same family, botanically anyways. But winter squash, especially butternut in particular, lasts a long time. Now, those that I showed are ones that don't really require anything special. You can put some potatoes in a box. There's ways to try to preserve it longer with some people use damp sand and all that. A crisper in your bottom of your refrigerator. They'll last for months in there. These sweet potatoes were just in a basket in the kitchen underneath the table. You know, but these are all ones that did not require anything special. This wasn't stored in any kind of special way. But if you want to preserve some other things that aren't as easily preservable, dehydration is a good way to do it. If you get a dehydrator, cheapo one, I have a cheapo Walmart one, works just fine. And so that works great. Depending on what it is, onions dehydrate very well. Peppers dehydrate very well. Other stuff dehydrates very well. Tomatoes you can dehydrate. There's plenty of things you can dehydrate. And canning. So I want to show some of the stuff I've canned over the years to show that these also obviously is a viable way to do it. It just takes equipment and more time and energy. Like these peas here, for example. So these peas, for example, there's actually a long story behind these because I had grew these peas. These I think I canned in 2019. I grew them in like 2018. I froze them for a year. Then I got tired of them in the freezer, taking up space, and I wanted to can them to preserve them even longer. So I canned some peas that I grew in 2019. You can tell they're still good because the top is still on there. If something begins to grow inside of here, because this is essentially a vacuum seal, essentially how canning works. But we'll make videos on canning stuff for anybody who's never canned before, whenever I got some new fresh produce coming from the garden. But peas can very well, very easy to can peas. The biggest hassle is shelling them. But you put them in there, pint-sized jar, cans very well. Keeps for a long time. Like I said, I've had these peas. I believe I canned them in 2019, and I actually grew them in like 2018. So these peas are like 4 years old. Here's some tomato sauce. See, I put it on there when I did this. Tomato sauce, August 2019 with chili peppers. Still good. It's more like tomato soup. It's kind of liquidy, but this is very good. We've eaten a lot of jars of this stuff. Came up very good. Other stuff you can can and preserve real well. Here's a can of carrots. So carrots do real well. So, and you could can just about anything. I mean, you have to maybe look up different things. This corn is another one I canned from the garden. In fact, I actually messed this up. I filled it way too far to the top, and whenever I canned it, it swelled up a little bit and took all the space. So there's no space left in here. But it canned. So this is from 2019's garden. In fact, I need to eat this because I'm starting to get a little bit of rust on the rim. And before this goes bad, I want to eat these. So that is some food for thought, so to speak, on thinking ahead. So we're basically a DEFCON 1 of SHTF, in my opinion. What was a conspiracy theory about food shortages a year ago or 2 years ago is now a reality. It's talked about in major media. The President of the United States has mentioned it. It's going to happen. There's going to be high prices. There's going to be shortages. Depending on what part of the world you're in, you may be more or less affected by it. Anything grown locally would be the way to go. And there's nothing more local than your backyard. Obviously, you're going to want to buy canned goods from the store. They're way easier than doing this. And it takes work. At least you know where it came from. At least you have it in your cabinet. Potatoes and things like that. This kind of stuff is super easy. But the whole idea I want to get across is now is the time. If you're a new gardener and you're concerned, or even if you're an experienced gardener and you're concerned, well, what am I going to do? Like right now, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to have green beans and squash and potatoes and all this stuff coming in. Eventually, the summer will end, and that's going to be whenever you need the calories the most. When you're planning out your garden and you're deciding what to grow, throw a few things in there that's going to be just for the winter. It's putting a little bit of food insurance in the bank, so to speak. Grow something like this that's going to last for a long time. Grow something like this that's going to last for a long time. Grow other things that are medium, and I would definitely suggest to learn to can. But you got to make sure that you're going to have stuff. And one of the advantages over the stuff, this corn probably has the most calories out of the things that I have right here that are canned. Peas are good because they're in the same family as beans. Carrots are root crops, so that's pretty good. But your big calories, if I had to try and make meals out of this to survive, sweet potatoes and winter squash and regular potatoes are going to be calorie crops that I can have during the winter because I grew it for the winter. I didn't grow it for whenever it was fresh in the spring and in the summer and going in those months. These are put up. These are grown specifically for after the garden season is over. So I would highly suggest that when you're doing your planning, you take that into consideration that summer won't last forever, and now is the time. It's springtime. People in the south are planting their gardens, and it's about another month away till my last frost date. I have seeds started in the greenhouse. So it's in full swing in a lot of places and gearing up for to be in full swing elsewhere. So when you're planning, keep that in mind. So anyways, that's my garden conversation for the SHTF events we're going to now. And one last thing I want to mention, aside from going by your rice and beans, another thing you can do that you can always put up, silver. In this case, it looks like a Bitcoin, so maybe you could use a Bitcoin too, I don't know. But maybe something like this, real money. Real money will be worth something to somebody always. Anyways, that's it. That's it.